when we have a chance to do any wrestling or UFC talk, this is the spot to do it. And the guy to talk to, his name's Justin Barrasso from Sports Illustrated, joins us here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Justin, pretty big news dump day for you today, huh? I don't know, where do we start?
January 23rd, 1984. It's the 40th year of Hulkamania. I mean, if that doesn't start the day off, and then to go from The Rock on the TKO board, WWE and Netflix. Joe, nice to connect with you, too. How are you?
I'm great. And you mentioned the 40th anniversary of Hulkamania, and you have an article about it from SI.com paying homage to one Dusty Rhodes. Who would have thought? Hulk Hogan says if it wasn't for Dusty, none of this happens. Tell us about their relationship, and here it is. Hulkamania still going these days.
You know, speaking with in the interviews with Hulk, it's always so interesting because he is such a big star, right? He's wrestling. I think he's probably the biggest star in wrestling. I mean, Steve Austin obviously rivals that. But Hogan did it twice, right, with Hulkamania and then again with the NWO. And Austin's similar in this regard, too. A lot of the guys are, but in the sense that Hulk was such a massive fan and, you know, would go to the Tampa Sportatorium and, I mean, talk about Big O, Randy Orton's grandfather, or Rocky Johnson, the Rockstad, or, I mean, Hulk would drive these guys around. He would hang out with them at the bar, trying to talk to superstar Billy Graham. And it's so interesting. That's the guy who became larger than life. Steve Austin, too, right? Steve was another guy in Texas who was another guy who was in love with pro wrestling. Shawn Michaels, not that different. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, another guy. So it's interesting that Bret Hart, some of the biggest names in pro wrestling history, not all of them, but so many of them grew up just in love with pro wrestling. And it's interesting. I mean, Hulk's two biggest, he's pretty open about this. His two biggest influences were superstar Billy Graham and Dusty Rhodes. And then you see a little bit more, I don't know, Nick Bockwinkel and some others as a villain, as a heel. But, yeah, it's pretty fascinating to hear Hulk pay homage to the late, great Dusty Rhodes.
Well, Dusty Rhodes has been brought up a lot, Justin, on wrestling television. Obviously, his son, Cody, who lost at WrestleMania 39 and talked about that, enters the Royal Rumble, which is this weekend, and wants to finish his story. But it seems like a lot of people want to finish this story. Whether it's CM Punk, whether it's Drew McIntyre, this thing's set up for a really good storyline, and that's what the entertainment business is about. But just speaking on Cody, is he more of what CM Punk is, or was CM Punk more of what Cody Rhodes was? I thought that was a pretty good promo.
I thought that segment last night on Raw, and it's in full on WWE's YouTube page, was one of the best segments on Raw in a decade. I mean, something about CM Punk just screams intensity. I thought that he really outdid Rhodes for maybe the first, I don't know, 2/3 of that interview, that promo, or that back and forth interview. But I thought Cody did a great job of showing off different layers as that went deeper on, and he held his own with Punk. I thought the whole thing was great. I mean, if you're Cody Rhodes and you can't, or you're not main eventing WrestleMania 40, what's the biggest match you can have? The biggest moment you can have? It's beating CM Punk. So if he doesn't get Roman, but if this builds to Mania, and it looks like it's going to be Roman and Rock, and it looks like it's going to be Cody and Punk, and then Cody still has the Randy Orton. You know, a Randy Orton heel turn will come of it, and then it'll be inevitable. But Cody and Punk at Mania, I mean, that's one of those matches, Joe, that's maybe more intense, that's bigger, that's more compelling, more captivating than the main event. But if what we saw last night is something to come, I mean, it's going to be a really fun build to WrestleMania.
Justin Barrasso joins us here. He's from Sports Illustrated. You can check out all his work at SI.com. The big news today is Netflix is the new home of the WWE and WWE Raw. So just to be clear, Monday Night Raw will be on there. SmackDown will now move to USA. But how did this thing happen? And will wrestling be the first live streamed event that is a sporting event that is on Netflix?
Yeah, big move. And you look at, I know Nick Khan gets a lot of credit, and rightfully so, but Ari Emanuel, I mean, they gave Ari a really dynamic brand to work with, and Ari's brilliant. And Ari's the CEO of TKO Sports, which is the parent company of WWE. parent company UFC. Ari's, with Endeavor, and he's so smart. It's Ari Emanuel that runs this ship, and obviously he's got people like Nick Khan, Vince McMahon, and others that have helped put this deal together. Now they put The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, on the TKO board, which is a big story for a couple of reasons. Yeah, Netflix is a big move, and that comes in January 2025. And you'll notice the words Monday night are omitted from that title, Joe, because it's going to be different. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what night things run, but I'd imagine SmackDown's moving to the USA Network. But I imagine that they'll eventually change SmackDown's night once it leaves Fox. They're still on Peacock with the premium live events, or as people from our era call them, pay-per-views, until 2026. What happens then? I mean, that's another bidding war for the rest of their content, especially their premium live events within the States, the SummerSlams, the WrestleManias, the Survivor Series, Money in the Bank, shows like that. So much is happening. And to hear the numbers, everything I've heard is the 10 years, $5 billion, which is massive numbers. And again, it's smart people operating this company, knowing what they're doing, knowing the brand they have, the loyal audience they have. And it's fun that Netflix will have their first foray into live streaming with WWE.
It's very interesting to see how this thing plans out, but 2025 should be interesting. And one other person that took on a big role is The Rock, who now trademarked his name. And can you tell us his new role? And do you think he could be a part of the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania this year?
It's a good question. I think the Royal Rumble is all about surprises, and it would be a great moment if The Rock came back and won the Rumble. I mean, Rock's got a lot of flexibility on the microphone that isn't afforded to many other people on the roster, but you're not going to come out and drop that head of the table line on January 1st if there's no plan for Roman Reigns. There is a plan for Roman Reigns. That's the direction they're moving. Even last night on Raw, we saw an audible with Seth Rollins, who's no longer planning to work with CM Punk at WrestleMania. I still think Gunther, Joe, wins the Rumble.
Good call.
I think Triple H is such an old school smart booker that he knows that you've got to build your next star. They have plenty of time to turn around Rock Roman, but I think you want to get Gunther to the next spot, and he's a massive star. If you had the privilege or pleasure of watching him on the Independents as Walter, bigger guy, lost a lot of weight, really, really toned up, and now he's known as Gunther on the main roster. But he's a phenomenal pro wrestler, and I don't think The Rock wins the Rumble. I think it's Gunther, but there's just so many moving pieces between now and WrestleMania. Becky Lynch, Rhea Ripley, Bayley winning the Rumble. I think it's her time. I don't know if there's anyone more deserving on that roster than her. So, yeah, it's a really fun time to be a wrestling fan, and I think they're going to do a great job of bringing in not only the season ticket holders, if you will, but the casual fans, too, building up the Mania.
Talking with Justin Barrasso of SI.com. He has a couple of stories on Bayley and Stone Cold, who talked about potentially wrestling again, potentially The Rock. So go check out those articles. Just want to ask you about AEW for a second here. I like the storylines, but how do you think they look at what WWE has been able to do with their past stars and make them big stars and continue to be big stars?
Yeah, I mean, you look at, and that was two AEW stars last night, in Punk and Cody. So yeah, obviously big for WWE to have them both. I think AEW needs to keep reaching they need to find a way to reach that more casual fan. I think they have the hardcores. If you look, Joe, it was really interesting last Wednesday night at the rating breakdown, and they drew a good rating. And I don't think the ratings are the end-all, be-all, but I think they do matter. If you look at where the ratings peaked or spiked, it was the opening match, which was a blast. It was Dustin Rhodes and Christian Cage. And Dustin's 55 this spring. He looks amazing. He's still Dustin Rhodes. Christian, 50. He looks great. That match drew a really good rating, and so did the main event, which was Hook, who's Taz's son, who's dynamic, and Samoa Joe. So you've got 3 out of 4 of your guys, and I don't think being older in pro wrestling is necessarily a bad thing, but you've got to build other stars too. So I think they've got to find a way to connect on a wider level. Because AEW's, I'll say this over and over again, if you're a diehard WWE fan, AEW is still a positive. It's a better place with AEW. Tomorrow night we get to watch Adam Copeland and Minoru Suzuki wrestle in the Cope Open. Like, that's fun. I mean, and WWE is better because of AEW. CM Punk wouldn't be back in WWE if not for AEW. Cody Rhodes, I don't know what would have happened to Cody without AEW. So AEW is a positive for wrestling. So you hope that they continue to build storylines that are captivating, compelling. You know, Kazuchika Okada, Joe, who's a massive star in Japan, he's a free agent now, and it's one of the stories we were head on a couple of months ago. And it'll be really interesting. I don't know what is a better fit for him. I think he'll probably get paid more in AEW, but maybe it's a better roster to work with in terms of AJ Styles and Finn Balor if he comes to WWE. To me, if I'm AEW, though, my goal is connecting with that more casual fan. I think you need Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné. You need her on your roster. That'd be a big way to capture, again, people that probably maybe aren't watching right now. So connecting with a wider audience is the goal for AEW. Joe, I hate to bring everything back to Sox Yanks, but like, when did the Red Sox, and I know they started spending money, but when did they get really good? It was when Theo focused on the Red Sox and less about the Yankees. Yep. AEW just needs to focus on AEW. And obviously, WWE is doing a great job of focusing on WWE.
And then MJF, I mean, you're the inside source. Is he physically unable to perform right now, or is it a contract?
So his contract came up. Everything I've heard indicates he's already re-signed with AEW, and I think that was the case before he beat Kenny Omega on that collision. I mean, you got to protect yourself if you're AEW and Tony Khan. He definitely did need time off. I thought he was very open in his Players Tribune piece about being on painkillers and not wanting to be, but just the position he was in, needing to defend the title. I thought Max had a nice title run. I'm a big Max fan. I'm excited for the Samoa Joe reign. But I would expect to see, the tough thing about that is, and I think Adam Cole's such a talented pro wrestler, it's tough when the payoff to your story is the guy who's injured, right? And that injury is not a work. Adam Cole's hurt. So to me, that's tough, right? When your major payoff, the guy can't wrestle. But I think they're making the best of what they can given the injury. But, yeah, I expect Max to remain with AEW.
All right, one more, Justin. One more. I just want to hit on UFC, if that's cool.
Yeah, of course.
Is it Duplessis? Is that how I say his name?
DDP. That's an easy way to remember him.
Okay, awesome. He's great. I watched his match last weekend. He's great. And as we look ahead here, Gaethje, right? Holloway, that's UFC 300. And what's the future of John Jones and Conor McGregor?
Yeah, I thought it was a great fight on Saturday night. I thought the right guy won. To me, it comes down to Strickland won 1-5. I thought DDP won 2, and then it comes down to 3 and 4. And I thought he won both those rounds. I know it's tough, the visual, when your face looks like a catcher's mitt. But I think the right guy won. I think the judges, as often maligned and maybe rightfully so as it is, they got it right on Saturday. You asked about, I think Gaethje beats Max Holloway, and that sets up the lightweight title. Gaethje and the winner of, well, I don't know if Islam Makhachev's still champion by then, but likely. And then John Jones, it's still Stipe. Maybe John does fight Tom Aspinall. Tom has been really advocating for that fight on social media. But I think John Jones knows that the big money fight is Stipe, and that's a fight he's going to win. I'll be shocked if he doesn't. And I'm a huge Stipe fan, but it's tough to beat John Jones in your prime, let alone when you're out of it. So yeah, I mean, a really exciting time to be a UFC fan. 300 should be great. It looks like too Israel Adesanya maybe comes back for 300, and I think that's a great centerpiece to UFC 300. Is he fighting for the title against DDP? So yeah, so much happening in UFC, but also too 299, Joe. I mean, Sean O'Malley comes back, so we get to see Henry Cejudo again in a couple of weeks. Yeah, just so much happening, and a tough fight for me too because I like both these guys so much. Obviously, covering and giving, staying unbiased, but huge Calvin Kattar guy who's from the Boston area from Methuen.
Methuen,
And I think Calvin is a class act and does things the right way. And Aljamain Sterling, what a great fight that is at featherweight at 300. So, yeah, it's a great time to be a fight fan. UFC, WWE. If you're not a fan of either, I don't know. It's a great time to jump in. I think it was last Wednesday I watched with my father that Dustin Rhodes, Christian Cage match. Like, if you're an old school wrestling fan, we grew up with Dustin Rhodes, right? Like, that guy was in our house every week as Gold Dust, or at least you felt that way. Christian, too. These guys have been around so long. So, yeah, I think there's so many new emerging stars, and I'm not sure there's a better time to be a wrestling fan than the build to WrestleMania. And as a fight fan, you get 298, 299, 300, plus this fun card. I think the Bellator guys are going to smoke the PFL fighters, but their championship series on February 24th. Joe, it's just a great time every day is a great day to be a sports fan, but especially right now.
All right, he's Justin Barrasso. Check out all his work, si.com. Justin,
Joe, before I lose you,
what do you got, bro? What do you got?
I'm taking a break. They're taking care of me tonight. Wonderful place, and childhood friend too at Rivalry in Salem. So we're having some fun watching some sports, and they want to bring you in as a celebrity night. And I said it's tough to book you, but we'll see.
Rivalry Kitchen in Salem. I know exactly. It's on Washington Street, right?
Yeah, nice.
Oh,
nice.
I know where it is. What do they got on the menu, bro?
I'm an easy guy to please. I like the pizza, but yeah, I think the pizza's really good and service is good. And I don't know, it's nice when you go into a sports bar with TVs everywhere, right? It's so easy to watch a game. And yeah, I'm a little biased as I grew up with these guys, Rob Stanziani and Zach Barnett, and their class acts. So,
I see. Yeah. I see they got a like a mac and cheese, a baked mac and cheese with some breading on top of it out of a skillet. Name on it. Out of a skillet. Oh, that looks good. I am in on that. Justin, great job, man. Great work. Read all his articles, and I'm sure we will catch up sometime on the road to WrestleMania, my man.
All right, Joe. Nice connecting. Thanks again.
Thanks, man. That's Justin Barrasso, Sports Illustrated, si.com.